quorum, so I'd like to welcome everyone to the Erie Land Bank meeting. I'd like to call order to open this meeting. Can I get a motion to accept the consent agenda and public comment?
I'll be pleased to make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Do we have any citizens' comments?
Nobody.
Okay, no citizens' comments. Can we now have the finance report?
All right, so in front of you is the balance sheet and profit and loss. One thing to note on the first page of the balance sheet, that undeposited funds of $30,000 is an error that should not be there. We're working through, the Erie Land Bank is still utilizing our 2014 QuickBooks. When we transition the authority over to the 2020 or the QuickBooks Online, we're not able to have two sets of books as we were in the old version. So we're working on creating another account for the Erie Land Bank, so the Land Bank will have its own separate set of QuickBooks Online books. Hopefully, probably a couple months. A month. Hopefully by the next board meeting, we have the Land Bank into QuickBooks Online, and then the reports will be a little bit more updated and easily editable, so that we can make those changes a little bit easier.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments on the finance report? Okay, Aaron, if you'd like to give the report of the executive director.
Absolutely. So work plan 2021 and 2022 are moving along. The majority of the demolitions on 2021 work plan are complete or should be complete here in the coming weeks. Gene can give an update on some of the 3 properties that are appealed to the Commonwealth. But one note is that 1615 Parade caught fire last night, so Empire is doing the emergency demo on it right now. And then we're going to put that one out. It's out for bid as just before this meeting, so that we will restore that site as quickly as possible.
Was there a cause for that?
The cost for the
cause?
The cause, it's undetermined. The fire inspector and the police department are looking into it. As far as the 2022 work plan, again, properties that are out for demolition are proceeding and should be down here. Their contracts give 30 days, so hopefully those will be down here in the coming weeks. We have a few more out for bid, plus the ones that are on the agenda for approval today. Mindy's been working very diligently on getting the agreement signed for the developers' proposals, along with the vacant lot agreements, and getting them over to Marsh so that we can get those conveyances moving forward. And then the authority and Marsh filed the condemnations for the 25 properties on August 8th. So last Monday those were filed. They'll get posted today and tomorrow, and then we'll wait for that period and then proceed from there.
Is that it?
That's it.
Are there any questions for Aaron?
I just have a procedural question. So on the 21 work plan, for example, the ones that are pending conveyance to Best, I've seen those a couple of times. Can you just help me understand what takes a while, I guess, in this circumstance like this?
With the ones, the conveyance to Best, we're waiting on Best's attorney to move forward with the conveyance of it. Typically, it takes them a while to go through that process. We nudge them every once in a while, but we're just waiting on Best to be ready to move them forward.
And is that the case typically when there's conveyance pending? It's just kind of...
Yeah, we're kind of in limbo,
things.
waiting for one legal team to work with another and get it finalized. So
okay.
At this point, Best maintains the properties and has since we demolished them. So there's really no cost to the land bank other than they're just sitting there waiting for that to be finalized.
Okay, thank you.
Aaron, on this page under new business, we had Laura Grutchen in here last month, and under new business it says, her request about contracts for the removal of single pane glass, window glass.
Yes.
Has there been any resolution to that, or?
As far as, then that's,
Or was that just a request she put in?
that was the, she spoke in front of the board.
Right.
And she provided the language for that, and then we did some due diligence as far as speaking to the demolition contractors. And I can talk more about that when we get into that
I
section.
can see,
Okay.
yeah, there's information actually, I think, in the packet.
Yeah, there's a
on that.
memo in there from myself.
Okay, thank you, sorry.
Okay. The solicitors report?
Good afternoon. Point well taken with regard to the Easterling property. There's no utilities there, so that was a situation where someone's broken into it and set fire. It's important to note that there's no utilities on there.
Okay.
Circling back on that, that's one of the three properties that were under appeal. That appeal has been dismissed. We have petitioned the court for the hearing on the no value. That we've reached out to, quite frankly, it was last week we reached out to the judge to get that rescheduled. I don't know whether he's waiting to see if he can loop in the other one.
Watford on east side.
Watford. Because we've requested of the Commonwealth Court to dismiss that appeal. So I'm going to follow up today with his staff and say, hey, look, we need to do these separate with Easterling because of the situation that happened over the weekend. Let's expedite that. So that's one of the three properties that are on appeal. The executive director again indicated that the complaint for quiet title action has been filed on 10 of those properties that we took back as part of the tax sales. Those 10 properties were owned by deceased people who estates weren't opened up. So what we're doing is we're serving the heirs along with all of the lien holders to clear the title so that we as the land bank can convey it to third parties without any liens or encumbrances. So that was all filed. We're waiting, we're serving. It has been advertised and it's in the process of being posted. So we should have all of that probably finalized sometime in late September. We have Judge Brabender involved, and he is on board with the expedition process of this, so that I don't know that there's going to be necessarily formal hearings, but notice going out that they're going to be in motion court, and he's going to dispose of them and grant the quiet title actions in motion court. So that'll help speed up that process so that we can do as we want to do and sell these properties as quickly as possible. With those two items with regard to the appeals of those three properties and the pending quiet title action, that's really all that I have.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
No, I just want to make a comment. Throughout this, someplace I'm half Gambill, other places it's Gamble. It's a common mistake. It happened my whole life, but I don't want people to think it was two different individuals. Okay. That's okay.
Now we'll go to unfinished business, work plan 2022. There is a request for 1737 East 6th Street, a letter, memo from Mike Lavery from the code office, and I don't know if you guys have read it, or Aaron, if you want to provide additional information on that.
So as the redevelopment authority looks to go through the blighted property list and identify 15 properties for condemnation, this property at 1737 East 6th Street keeps coming up. It's received numerous complaints over the summer from residents within the neighborhood, people driving down in on West 6th Street. I know I've received multiple calls wondering when we're going to do something with the property. Everyone assumes that we already have ownership of it since it's blighted. But unfortunately, on our next condemnation list for the redevelopment authority, it sits out of a QCT, so we cannot take action on it. And given the numerous amount of complaints with the property, I feel that the land bank, given that Gene has been able to consolidate some of the filings and save us money legally on the filing fees, that we have some additional money in our work plan 2022 to add this as part of that 15 condemnation list and add it as the 2022 work plan. Land bank will acquire that property and redevelopment authority will take the other 14. So I'm asking the board to accept the approval to combine that with the 2022 work plan and give authorization for the redevelopment authority to seek condemnation of the property.
Just a question. This is the Tudor House on West 6th Street?
Yes, on the corner of
On the
Vermont
corner.
and West 6th Street.
Okay.
Yeah, it's severely overgrown.
Yeah.
Code enforcement's been unable to find the owner. We've heard different stories about her being in a nursing home. Taxes are current, but nobody has been responsive. Public Works has gone out and cut back the shrubs for visibility purposes and done some cleaning, but for all intents and purposes, there's been non-response from anybody with any connection to the property.
But somebody's paying the taxes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sure, and the taxes are probably $4,000, $5,000, a year, I imagine. That's odd. Just,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other questions or comments? Can I get a motion to allow Aaron to move forward with obtaining this property?
So moved.
Second? Excuse me, second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so the next item under unfinished business and new business is the window glass recycling. We actually had someone, I forgot the person's name,
Yeah,
come
Laura.
here was it last month or the month before?
Yeah, it was
And-
during the July meeting. Yeah, she
Right,
spoke
and
at public comment.
And she did a presentation. There is a memo in your packet where Aaron gives his opinion as far as that he believes that the cost for demolition is going to increase if we do something like that, but I guess if we decide to move forward, there is a sample bid clause that would be included in the bid package, I believe. Also, I guess my question would be is, how much more do you think demolition would be if we decided to move forward with this?
If the board, given the conversations I had with two of the demolition contractors, if the board required the removal of the glass, they would anticipate at least $1,000 increase for their time and labor and all the liability to go into the property, remove the sashes, bring them out of the property and pile them. I mean, I guess you look at a demolition and our demolitions as it's like a kid with a sandcastle on the beach. They just come in and smash it down and remove it. They typically do not enter the property. They don't do a lot of manual labor other than the minimal cleaning of the yard and other debris in that aspect of it. So for them to actually have somebody, if it was required to go into the property, remove those sashes, like the memo says, which can be labor intensive at points, and stack them outside, would be a cost that would be passed on to us.
Okay.
And that doesn't, I said in the memo, as far as our staff time, because if we were to require that, we would have to go count the windows and add that into the bid of how many, trying to determine what would be a point of salvageable windows and not, and most times they're broken, they're shattered, cracked. There's a lot of variables to that.
I think there's a safety concern
Yeah,
as well.
right. Yeah, because getting in and out of some of those units can be tough.
Yeah. We've talked about it with the housing inspectors and some of our, redevelopment authority programs about, if we're doing RRP work and we're replacing windows, we can salvage those and we could pile those and have those recycled. But that's a different scope of work than it is demolition.
I guess I would ask the board what their comments are or questions on this. I guess especially if it's a safety issue, I'd be real concerned about that. Would that mean we'd have to get more liability insurance on whoever's doing the demolition or the contractors who are actually doing the demolition? I guess my concern would be safety as far as increase in cost.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and without, and not speaking for them, but, you know, just speaking in general for liability insurance, I mean, if their policy is strictly for demolition and there's no manual labor involved, their insurance premiums may go up if they have to add that to it.
So, does the board have a recommendation as far as how they would want to proceed with this or not to proceed with this?
So I do like Mr. Sniffert's recommended language in terms of encouraging folks to participate. And maybe we do that for a year and then revisit it next summer and kind of ramp it up and see, just kind of see what the participation level is. You know, sometimes, you know, folks on their own, I mean, we're all getting a little more accustomed to recycling. So it's becoming more and more apparent. So that might be a decent interim step to encourage folks but not require it. I would be okay with that.
I'm in agreement with Mr. Scalise. I was thinking the same thing, maybe a year to see who takes advantage of it. Perhaps we can track that information or ask Ms. Gunchin to come back a year from now and give us a report on who, you know, if any, took advantage. But I'm in agreement with the encouragement only at this point.
I agree.
Yeah, and I mean, with 25 condemnations pending, we'll definitely have some properties to track some data and see what we can get out of that.
All right, tax abatement, there's a resolution for 554 East 25th Street, and the resolution is,
All right, so I include the resolution. This is like Deborah said, is for the 554 East 25th Street. This was a property that the land bank took on donation when it caught fire next to one of our properties. There was 2020 taxes on it. During the donation process, those were not abated. The property currently sits on the upset tax sale list, and we are under agreement to sell this and the neighboring 550 to Dan Serafin. So this would permit us to abate the county and city taxes and then pass it on to the school district to abate their taxes, which will then remove it from the upset sale and allow us to continue with that conveyance to Mr. Serafin.
okay, do we need a motion or anything to allow you to move this forward? Or?
Yeah, we'll need a motion, a second, and a vote.
Okay. Are there any questions before I ask for a motion? All right, can I get a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor? Number 4 is property disposition. There are actually 5 properties on a demolition list. It looks like from reviewing it that the lowest bidder was selected for all of the different addresses. I don't know if there are questions, comments, or anything from anyone. Have any questions or concerns?
Oh, no, I'm still reading.
All right.
I'm a slow reader, sorry.
Can I have a motion to move forward with the demolitions for these 5 properties?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Next on the list is developer proposal. This is at 552 East 24th Street. Mr. Serafin came in last month and gave a proposal on this property here. He's actually looking to purchase it for $3,000. I guess my only question would be is that I noticed that there wasn't, when I look at, I guess, the proposal, there wasn't anything in there as far as what the total construction would be for this, to do this, as well as if there was, you know, enough funding. I don't know if we just assumed or because, you know, the person owned the store that this would actually take place. So I guess I'm just kind of wondering why none of the things that we normally request from any other developer were not included in this proposal here.
I will say, because this proposal's been sitting in the file for probably about 4 to 5 months right now. Once we acquired the property and there started to be issues with the property, Mr. Seraphin reached out, wondered, what we were going to do with it. At that point, we were still working with the previous owner who had bought it at tax sale. So he turned in the proposal, and we put it out probably about 45 days ago for proposals to come in. We received no other proposals, so this was the only proposal we had, so it's what we were presenting to you. So certainly, we would have had the cost estimate and stuff like that if it would have been a newer proposal. And we can certainly seek that from him if the board wishes.
I guess I would just request that only because I think in his proposal, he is stating that the work will be completed in 3 months. And so I don't know if anyone's gone through and done an inspection on the property. From looking at a picture, which is probably pretty old, the house kind of looks, doesn't look in good condition, looks kind of,
A little rough?
yeah.
A little rough.
The authority did do an inspection of the property. The previous owner put a new roof on the property. They gutted the second floor and started a rewire of it. I mean, we still estimate a rehabilitation cost somewhere around $60,000 to $70,000. So there's still a substantial amount of work, but the property, it seemed at least salvageable if somebody was interested in the investment.
Okay. Are there any questions?
I just have one other question. He indicates renting to low income. I just wonder, how do we know that? Do we track that? Do we require it? He's indicated it, and it's even circled, it will benefit. And I'm just wondering, who's making sure of that, I guess?
Yeah, that we don't track it. We haven't tracked anything. I mean, we don't have a lot of properties that we've rehabilitated, so
Okay.
we haven't had a need to track that currently. But I don't really have an answer for you on that.
Yeah, it just seems to me that if we're going to ask the question, we should have a way to check up on it. If we're not going to ask because it really doesn't matter, then I would say let's not ask it. But if we are, I would just want to know how we're going to make sure.
I guess, Aaron, is there any way that we could, check as far as having him obtain an application from whoever the renter may be, and him collecting data as far as income, household, different things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we certainly, that kind of goes back to the conversation the board had last month, was how do we look at the affordability period or an ownership period on a property to protect what somebody is putting on there. So we can certainly add that to the discussion as far as a mortgage or, something like that.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. Gamble? Chuck?
I'm good.
No? Okay, I'll need a motion to move forward with this proposal or approve this proposal.
I'll make that motion, thank you.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Work plan 2023?
All right, so it's that time of year, we've got to start planning and looking forward to putting together the work plan and budget for next year. Typically, I try to get the work plan to the Erie County Land Bank for their approval of the funding for it by October. So I just kind of wanted to put one, I provided, we printed out the 2022 judicial tax sale. Last year, as you're aware, we took 19 properties off judicial tax sale. A lot of those have been demolished. We're offering out about 8 of those for developer proposals, So this year's tax list is thin. The county has, made that known to me several times when, we've talked to them about, not wanting us to take 19 properties again, since it would, diminish their ability to make any money off the sale. But, certainly there are some in this, I apologize, the black and white doesn't highlight very well, but the lighter gray are our properties that are part of the 2022 condemnation list, and then the darker gray, slightly darker, are other blighted properties that reside on the list as well. Now, we can certainly option any properties off the judicial tax sale that the board would wish. The only caveat being they've got to be vacant. We cannot acquire a property that is occupied. So we haven't gone through this list. We haven't looked at as far as what property is vacant, other than the blighted properties were vacant at the time they were blighted. The majority of these ones have been blighted within the last year. So they're the more than likely vacant. A couple of those, I know Mindy met with Mike Lavery last week for our conversation on those 15 properties that we're looking at. A couple of these might be on that list because we're not certain that the owner wouldn't pull it off tax sale prior to those, and we don't want that to happen if we have the opportunity to take a property. So really, I'm just, putting out there for the board, as far as thoughts on the 2023 work plan, how they would like to proceed, areas we would like to target. In the past few years, we've kind of went around properties that, we already have vacant lots, trying to assemble and create that assemblage of lots so that we have something that is buildable, going and looking at corridors in areas that need some assistance. We took a property in the 25 off East Avenue. There's two properties side by side that were blighted. So it's just kind of a mix lately that we've done, kind of a scattered site and a targeted approach over the last several years.
I just had a question on one of the properties, well, two actually. The one at 2406 French Street, which was actually, I guess, purchased in February of 2022, and then there was one, 1003 East 23rd Street. It was purchased in April of 2021, and so I guess how are these properties actually, I guess, at the judicial tax sale when they were just actually kind of purchased? Just kind of wondering how they do that.
And Gene could correct me, but more than likely it's because of a quitclaim deed.
Okay.
They can transfer title without paying the taxes.
Okay, gotcha. All right, thank you. Are there questions on the 2023 work plan?
Just a comment that I do like the approach of trying to assemble, parcels where possible. Now, as we're looking at this list and being very new, I'm not exactly sure myself where that's possible, but I think that that's a good strategy to have. I think it encourages, significant neighborhood development, not just small parcels that perhaps, unless it's your side lot, you might not be interested in, I guess. So I do like that approach where possible, and maybe as we move forward, if there was a map or something we could see, just especially for those of us that are a little newer, that would be helpful.
Okay, yeah, we can get some of that together. And hopefully as the city continues to onboard their new software and that, we'll have better access to maps moving forward as well, so.
We don't need to do anything on this, do we?
No, no.
Okay. Is there any other business or announcements or anything?
One other comment I wanted to make, just so the board is aware, 17 Fairmont Parkway, 1721? 23?
1743.
1743 Fairmont Parkway, one of the properties that was on for developer proposals last month. The board approved one proposal and a backup proposal. The initial proposal, the gentleman backed out. The second proposal was incomplete, so we reached out to that individual, requested the additional documentation to fulfill that application. They have been non-responsive, so we are going to put that property back out for redeveloper proposals, and we'll probably have those for you at the September meeting.
Okay.
Who's the gentleman? Put in,
Steve Mickle.
was he here?
He was
Yes.
here.
He had concerns about the land bank's involvement in the property and keeping tabs on it.
Is that it? I'll call for adjournment.
So moved.
Thank you. Thank you.